Another year ending with Cowboys fans crying. But this is different. And this is the first installment of Most Disappointing Teams 2021 Dallas Cowboys edition. We start this video back in September of 2020, coming off yet another disappointing season during the NFL's 100th anniversary, where they finished 8-8 after folding versus the Eagles with the division on the line. They fired their 9-year head coach Jason Garrett and brought in Mike McCarthy, who was fired a year earlier by the Packers after an embarrassing 4-7-1 start, and it was a loss to the 3-9 Cardinals that broke the camel's back. This hiring by Dallas is very important, as many claim it led to their downfall. Also, I forgot to mention, CeeDee Lamb somehow fell to them in the 2020 draft, and this happened.
He can do that. He's a kid who's very explosive. He'll take that big hit, hold on to the football, knows how to find the open area in that defense. Obviously, come out of Oklahoma.
So heading into the 2020 season, the Dallas Cowboys offense was led by Dak Prescott in a contract year, trying to prove himself, Amari Cooper, fresh off a $100 million contract, the exciting rookie CeeDee Lamb, Ezekiel Elliott in the second year of his 6-year $90 million extension, the underrated Michael Gallup, the number 1 ranked O-line. The defense, on the other hand, they'd struggle, and struggle might be an understatement. Okay, week 1, they lost a heartbreaker to the Rams, 20-17. Defense did their job, offense didn't. But from that point on, the defense looked like an absolute joke. Week 2 versus Atlanta, they barely escaped 40-39 because the Falcons are just gonna Falcon. Week 3 versus Seattle, they held a 38-31 loss. The second straight game, the defense led up 30+. Week 4, they lost 49-38. Notice the theme, offense scores a ton, defense lets up a metric ton. So now heading into week 5 versus the Giants, Dak is getting legitimate MVP shouts and the stats back it up. But soon, that would all be shut down. In week 5 of his potential MVP campaign in a contract year, his legs shattered on national television. Oh, and by the way, the defense let up 34. Okay, without Dak, their season was absolutely over. I'm moving on to 2021. They finished 2020 with a 6-10 record. In the offseason, Dak did in fact get his contract extension. 4 years, $160 million. So the stacked offense I named is back intact, plus Michael Gallup was something to prove in a contract year of his own. In the draft, they attacked their defensive needs with home run pick Micah Parsons from Notre Dame, but their defense overall was still a joke. But before we could even get to week 1 of the season, Dak's status for the week 1 mega matchup versus defending champion Buccaneers was in question. And not because of his leg, but a latissimus strain in his shoulder, which caused him to miss most of his training camp and all of preseason. But he did indeed start, and when I say nobody, I mean nobody was giving them a chance versus the defending champs. And just like last season, the Cowboys offense fought, and the defense let them down. Dak on an injured shoulder threw the ball 58 times. That is unheard of. He finished with 403 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception, completing 42 of his 58 pass attempts. Amari Cooper had 139 yards and 2 touchdowns. This is exactly what we expected from the Cowboys. Great offense and a defense that couldn't guard a parked car. But hey, at least that second-year receiver turned corner out of Alabama, Trayvon Diggs, got an interception. Okay, so with it being my first time doing a video like this, I have no idea how long it would take me to cover all 18 games this season for the Cowboys. So I'll just cover the really important events, the events that led to their playoff downfall. Starting with week 2, they played the Chargers. The defense actually did their job, and the offense barely did enough to get them a 20-17 win. But the leading rusher of this game, Tony Pollard, he had 109 yards and 1 touchdown. He'll be really important later on. And Trayvon Diggs got another interception. From weeks 3 to 5 though, they faced mediocre to terrible teams, and the Eagles, who they beat 41-21, the Panthers, who they beat 36-28, and the Giants, who they beat 44-20. So the offense was clicking, and the defense actually looked respectable. Heading into week 6, Dallas finally faced a legit team in the Patriots, and the highly anticipated matchup delivered. Dallas escaped New England with the 35-29 win off the backs of yet another clutch Trayvon Diggs interception and Dak's 445 yards on 51 pass attempts for 3 touchdowns and 1 interception. This was the game for Dallas to prove they were legit. They beat Bill Belichick off a game-winning touchdown in overtime, except this was the peak of their season, and everything would go down south from here on out. On the very final play of the game, Dak suffered a right calf strain, and Dak didn't look normal for most of the season outside a few games versus terrible teams. The good news, though, was after the New England game was their bye week. Coming off their bye week, Dak was not healthy enough to play versus the Vikings on Sunday Night Football Halloween night. But the defense showed up, and somehow Cooper Rush led them to victory, a 20-16 win. Next week, Dak came back, and they faced Denver, but the offense, they just looked off, and they lost 30-16. I believe they were down 30-3 at one point too. They went on to blow out a terrible Atlanta team 43-3 the next week. Then, the highly anticipated matchup versus the Chiefs, Amari Cooper tested positive for COVID and would miss the game. And boy did they struggle on offense. They only put up 9 points, all field goals, no touchdowns. When your defense holds Mahomes to 19 points, you have to capitalize. Entering Week 12's Thanksgiving matchup with the Raiders, this would be the Cowboys' last good offensive game before a very rough stretch. And this game is what we expected from the Cowboys' offense. Without Cooper, the offense still put up 33 points. Dak put up 375 yards, his first 300-yard game since Week 6 versus New England. But, of course, they lost because the defense was getting torched by the corpse of Deshaun Jackson, who they somehow let go for 102 yards in the year 2021. But the one defensive positive was rookie Micah Parsons, who made his presence known with 5 tackles, 1 sack, and 5 QB hits. Next week versus Saints, with Cooper back, the offense again struggled. The 27 points came from a defensive touchdown and stat padding, as Zeke and Pollard were terrible the whole game, outside Pollard's like 150-yard touchdown. Okay, it's raining outside now, so if you do hear it, then pain, but if you don't, good. So, heading into the final 5 games of the season, 4 out of the 5 games were against teams below 500. Week 14 versus the Washington football team, it was Parsons and the defense who dominated. The offense could barely move the ball. Week 15 versus the Giants was the same exact thing. But Week 16 versus Washington, this was supposed to be Dak's get-right game. I mean, just look who they were facing. The injured and COVID-riddled Washington football team had a linebacker starting who played 0 defensive snaps before. And the Cowboys dominated 56-14, and everyone was saying, Dak is back. But in Week 15, they'd finally face a legit team. Well, a team with a positive record. And the offense struggled the whole game, while the defense kept them in it. And Dallas would stat pad in a few scores at the end of the game to make it look respectable. But at what cost? On one of the touchdowns, Michael Gallup tore his ACL, and this would essentially be the dagger in the Cowboys season. A shame how it happened in a contract year for Michael Gallup. And for their Week 18 game versus the Eagles, it was a mirror image of the Washington football team game. Stat padding versus bank tellers and used car salesmen. The playoffs were finally here, and there were major issues in Arlington, Texas. Number 1, the offense has been non-existent versus teams over 500 since Thanksgiving. Number 2, Zeke has no explosiveness and people are calling for Pollard to start. Number 3, Mike McCarthy's clock management has been terrible all season. Number 4, Dak is more than likely battling some sort of calf injury. Number 5, their wild card opponent, the 49ers, were the worst matchup they could have gotten. Number 6, penalties. They were the most penalized team in the league. And number 7, their stadium sucks. You'll see later on. So the stage was set. 2 of the most storied franchises in the NFL, the 49ers and the Cowboys. Dak and Jimmy, both with something to prove. And in front of 50 million viewers, the largest audience for a wildcard game in 7 years, the Cowboys folded. Just like they always do. Just like 2007, just like every year since 1995. Every year is a year until it isn't. The Cowboy offense couldn't really get anything going through 3.5 quarters. The defense was getting ran over all night, but stiffened up in the red zone twice, just for Dak, CD, the O-line, and Zeke to disappear. Casper the Ghost, Ezekiel Elliott, had 12 carries for only 31 yards. CD Lamb had 1 catch for 21 yards. It was a disaster, but after all that, Trayvon Diggs getting put in a blunder, Dallas still had a chance. It looked as the game was all but over when Dak threw a pick to put his team down 23-7. But no, because Kyle Shanahan and Jimmy G will always find a way to choke. The game was looking oh so similar to Super Bowl 54 just 2 years ago, but this time it was Dak and Mike McCarthy and not Mahomes and Andy Reid on the other sideline. And it showed, as with 14 seconds left and no timeouts, Dallas called a QB draw in front of 50 million people that ended their season. The clock management issues, everything came back to haunt them. Cowboys lose America wins. And former Cowboys quarterback Troy Aikman went in on Dallas and CeeDee Lamb. As you can see, it's pretty long, so if you want to read it for yourself, you can pause the video. But for time's sake, I'm not going to read the whole thing. But he was basically saying that Dak and CeeDee Lamb were scared to take over the game, which is why CeeDee only had one catch, even though there is opportunity for him to have way more catches. And he was saying that back in his day, if that was him and Michael Irvin and they had that coverage played on them, they would have taken over that game. Also, remember earlier in the video, I said the Cowboys had multiple problems going into the playoffs. Well, here are two of them. Number one, I said the stadium sucks. Here is an example of what I'm talking about. The sun was blinding because the stadium is designed for during the daytime. They can have natural lighting, so they don't have to use stadium lights. Well, that came back to haunt them because in January, the sun sits at a certain angle to where the sun pierces through the stadium windows. So it blinded them. It cost them crucial points to make it a one-score game late in the second quarter, which cost them at the end of the game. And also, it's been revealed by Mike McCarthy that Ezekiel Elliott has been playing on a torn PCL since week 4, which is probably why he lost all his explosiveness and looked terrible down the stretch of the season, and why they needed to play Tony Pollard. But that's been the video. I hope y'all enjoyed. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment something about this video or your playoff predictions. And yeah, go watch my last video. It's nearing 1,000 views, and I'm out. Peace.
We've been in there. There ain't nothing going on.